Okay, yesterday we began the discussion of monarchy in the Jewish people, and we got up to Shmuel Aleph, Perek Ches, I believe all the way to Pasuk Tes, and we said, although the fact that the Torah gives us a command to make a king, we said that's not such a simple thing. And we brought a couple important points, that a king's role is not to render judgments. The king's role is to be the first servant and show everybody else what it means to be a servant, and to make it that everybody does become a servant. We brought from Rabbi Tzadok, who says that really the whole idea of Malchus is kechol hagoyim, like all the other nations, meaning to say is that really it's a symbolic monarchy on our part. It's really meant to be a monarch for the nations of the world. So now there's another piece from Rabbi Tzadok in his work Likutei Mamorim on Yud Gimel Amud Beis, and he says like this. He likens the request of a king here to the request when the Jewish people wanted to make the golden calf. How is this similar to the request of the golden calf? Well, the golden calf sin stemmed from when at Mount Sinai, after Moshe gave the first two commandments, the Jewish people, after dying after each time and being revived, they then said to Moshe, Daber ata itanu, you speak to us, Moshe, not Hashem. And that was really the source of the sin of the golden calf, which means the Jews, if they would be hearing from Hashem, that would have been the ultimate level they could have reached. The rabbis say if they would have heard all 10 commandments from Hashem, they never would have had a Yetzer Hara again, they never would have sinned again. And that would have been the ultimate level. But by asking for Moshe to speak to them, they were willing to settle for mediocrity, because really they were not willing to be Moser Nefesh, to self-sacrifice, to deal directly with Hashem. Dealing directly with Hashem requires a lot higher, intense level. And this was the issue with the Chet HaEgel as well. So once they showed it a little bit, when they said, Moshe, you speak to us instead of Hashem. So when Moshe didn't come back, so they continued to want an intermediary instead of directly with Hashem. So it comes from the same request. Now we'll see it in another piece later. The Gemara says, Man Malka, who are the real kings? Rabbanon, the rabbis. So meaning to say that really the Jewish people, the truth is they don't really even need a Moshe, because Hashem is the one who gives wisdom. We say in our davening, V'chanenu me'itcha de'ah bina vaskel. We want you, Hashem, to make us smart. Okay? And we should want everything directly from Hashem. And when the Jewish people asked for a leader in the desert, when they wanted Moshe to give over the Torah, so this is all the same thing. We could have dealt directly with Hashem. So here's the point. Rabbi Tzadok says another reason why we want Mashiach, right, is why? Because we're weak people. We're weak-willed people, and we really don't have a direct drive to Hashem. We don't have a direct drive for Hashem. And even when Mashiach comes, there'll still be an intermediary. We'll still have to have leaders. When will be the time we won't need any leaders? In Olam Haba, in the world to come. If it wouldn't have been for the Jewish people saying, Daber ata, you speak to us, then Bnei Yisrael could have had the ultimate perfection of dealing directly with Hashem. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Tzadok says, and Korach, in spite of his negative aspect, he was bang on in one area. He said, Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim, the whole congregation, they're all holy. And Madua Tisnasu, why do you have to be higher than us? And that was really the truth, especially because he was from Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi did not sin by the golden calf. When Moshe said, Mi Lashem Elai, who is for Hashem to me, they didn't look at intermediaries. And the truth is, Korach's mistake was as follows. Korach estimated correctly the level of Shevet Levi. If everybody was Shevet Levi, then Bnei Yisrael would not have needed a leader, would not have needed an intermediary like Moshe Rabbeinu. And all that idea of elevating one people over everybody else and the need for a teacher, as it were, comes from the Chet HaEgel. because you wanted to have intermediaries. You didn't want to deal directly with Hashem. So Korach was right in that aspect. But the problem is, he didn't realize that the other 11 tribes were not on that level. And the other 11 tribes would have to have a leader. And therefore that was a mistake. And when Moshe told them, listen, this is what Hashem wants, Hashem says, since the Jews have sinned already after the Chet HaEgel, they're not on the level to go leaderless, so now you can't go against the will of Hashem. But certainly, Korach was right in terms of the optimal level, and I'm sure Moshe understood what the optimal level was, and Moshe never wanted to be the leader, but Hashem says you're not working on the optimal level anymore, so now you at least have to have a king. But really, this whole point, and this is what Shmuel is saying, is that, and that's what the Radak was picking up on. If you recall, we said the Radak mentioned 3 averos that the Jewish people did over. It's machlokas, 3 ways what the aver was. Number 1, to be like the other goyim. So we already explained what it means to be like the other goyim, that the king becomes a judge like the other goyim. So we explained yesterday from Rutzadik that is not appropriate. And the second one, he said, is that it's for idol worship. Now you can see where the idol worship comes in, and that's what Shmuel himself said, that Hashem told them that really that they've abandoned me, and this has just been the same thing they've been doing all along, to leave me and worship other gods. Where does other gods come into? Well, Shmuel's saying, this Shmuel's critical of the Jews, and he will be much more critical. He's saying, why do you need a king? You have a Navi. You have a Navi, you don't need an intermediary. The Navi's not the intermediary, he's just giving you the word of Hashem. The Navi is the one who gives you the direct relationship with Hashem. He's just telling you what Hashem is saying, finished. That's the direct relationship with Hashem. And but the fact of the matter is, they wanted, as it were, a buffer. They want a buffer in the form of a king so that they could live their own lives. They don't want to have a direct relationship with Hashem. And that's the idea of having that intermediary. So you want to have your own life, it's not going to be too far away till you're going to get to idol worship. And that was indeed the problem that happened. So this was the critical mistake. And although maybe the leaders, as the Radak says, may have had the right idea of making a king, Som Tasim Al Melech, but the populace said Kechol HaGoyim, like all the other nations of the world. And that's what that's how the leadership had descended. Michdam Eliyahu writes that Moshe Rabbeinu, he had a direct connection to Hashem, and that stood in good form for the Jewish people, much better. Yeshua had a direct connection with Hashem, but it required a lot of effort on his part to get that direct message from Hashem. Now that we're going to have a melech, a king, and really effectively they weren't really such big in-between people over here. So if you want to have a proper king, then they need a shepherd of the Jews to what the Ratzon Hashem is, to keep them in line, that they should each be an Eved Hashem directly, to improve the discipline, as it were, within the ranks. But not to be an intermediary. But the Jews wanted really an intermediary. So it's a repetition again of the same seeds that brought the Chet HaEgel, the same seeds that didn't want Hashem to give us the Torah directly. The way the Jews asked for it was to be a buffer. The idea is, yes, there can be a perfect world concept of a king, where the Jewish king is mainly a king for the rest of the world, to keep the rest of the world in line, and to role model what it means to be the first servant to Hashem, and that's all he does. But he's not meant to be the buffer between you and Hashem. And the Jews wanted him to be a buffer, and based on what you want, that's what eventually that king will become. And that's how the kings eventually brought lots of idol worship to the Jewish people, because that's what they want. If you don't want to have a direct relationship with Hashem, the king picks it up. And we'll see shortly, what things come out of that. Okay, yeah.
Except for the Adam Rishon, there was never really a direct connection between Hashem and the Jewish people.
We're talking about the patriarchs. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but the Jewish people, they were not all patriarchs. There were a few patriarchs that, yes, they had connection, but the people never
their children and their children, right?
But the Jewish people, Israel, they never had that.
Then when we had the Mishkan brought us back to that level.
But still, we had stratas, we had people, we had Kohanim, we had Levi, so we had the whole strata.
There were individual Jews who were able to live up to that.
If people, we never had that. We never did.
Never everybody. You're right. But in terms of King Shlomo, it was a lot closer. Many more had.
The tribes were spread all over the country, up and down. Not very few had connections, except for,
we're difficult people. Just because we haven't succeeded doesn't mean it's not a worthwhile cause.
Never succeeded. We never had it.
That's, again, we had it in the central core, and anyone who wanted to avail himself to could, and there's always those who choose not to.
It's always the case.
Listen, the mitzvah was everyone has to go to Yerushalayim. Everyone has had a chance 3 times a year to have that direct connection to Hashem. And many Jews took advantage of it.
And
many.
And when they went, they did have a direct connection?
Yes, that was the whole point of going to the Beis Hamikdash.
When they brought the Korbans?
Yes, on Yom Tov. That was the time to feel, that was the whole mitzvah of going to the Beis Hamikdash. To feel that direct connection. The system was in place, it was available to all Jews. Jews who wanted to avail themselves could, and did. And anyone who wants to be a sinner, Rishus Biyado. You don't have the Rishus to be a sinner. No one's going to stop you from being a sinner. Can't stop you from being a sinner.
Getting back to today, what do we do? What do we have? We have nothing.
We have plenty. We have our Torah, and that's what Gemara says. The Torah is what can connect you to Hashem. If you learn Torah, all the things we're learning are meant to, if we can act on what we're learning, you can feel close to Hashem. That's what all the Bilvavi work we're doing is just trying to get you a direct connection to Hashem. That's what it's about. The choice is always there. Problem is, people don't want to act on it. They just don't want to do it. Can't force people to live up to their potential.
So maybe just from a different perspective to maybe defend the people. We learned a long time ago, we say so many times, it's being like direct plugging into the nuclear generating plant when you're that close to God and the connection is that close. Maybe that's just too much for the people to handle, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we use that.
It's not too much. It's not too much.
It's wrong to have that intermediary.
It's not too much for them to handle. They've always said. They've fooled themselves in thinking it's too much to handle.
But didn't we say that God...
But that never happened.
He does. So to that point he did. But he always, even within that distancing, he enables us to have a direct relationship with the Elokim aspect of Hashem, not with the Yud Hey Vav Hey aspect of Hashem. The Yud Hey Vav Hey aspect is hidden from us. But the Elokim aspect isn't hidden from us. And that's the aspect that we should be able to get to from our neshama, to feel that direct connection to Hashem. That's what we have. You don't have to go anywhere else. You look into your neshama, you cling to your neshama, you expose your neshama, you've got a direct connection to Hashem. And the king is to role model that. The king walks around with a Sefer Torah around him all the time. What's he doing all the time? He's thinking about Hashem. Right? Every decision he makes as a king is how we're going to keep the Jews directly connected to Hashem. That's what it's supposed to be. But the Jews didn't want the king that way. So they made the king be different. That's how they hired him, and that's how they... And you get the kind of rabbi you want.
I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying? The rabbi tells you what the word of Hashem is, and everybody's up in arms, and guess what? The rabbi ain't going to tell it to you anymore. And that's it. And that's what you got. That's what you got. You got what you want. And if not, they kill the king. And there'll be no king. That's all there is to it. Jews get exactly what they want. Hashem gives them all the opportunities. At the end of the day, they get what they want. And this is what they wanted. That's why Shmuel was so upset. He says, what was wrong with me? You can't wait till I die? They should have asked, who's going to be the next Navi?
Or his sons were
not his sons. They should have asked, who will be the next Navi to lead us? You're going to die. We need a Navi. Where are we going to get a Navi from? There were better options for them to ask for. But they chose for this option and this option. You'll see, we're not done. We're going to be in this for quite a while. It's a very important topic. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a piece from the Shiurei Das from Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Leib Bloch, one of the Rosh Yeshivas in Telz. This was written sometime in the 20s and 30s. When Telz was really the big yeshiva in Lithuania. And this is a very important piece. There's a whole piece on Malchus, on Melucha, which may be in Parshas Vayigash. We'll use it as a Parsha class. That will explain a lot of things about Yosef and Yehuda. It's an amazing class, but we're only going to quote the parts that relate to kingship and monarchy. Well, hopefully we'll get it done today. You want to look on page Tes, the one panel page first, and look where I have the arrow. It says, see, right now we've been looking at very negative aspects of the monarchy. So now and in the first part of his talk, he talks about what the wrong aspects of monarchy is. Now he's going to explain what monarchy is supposed to be, and how this can apply in a broad way to each and every one of us. There's mitzvahs that are meant to be done. Now the question is, who fulfills the mitzvah? One of the 613 mitzvahs, right, is to have a king. Whose mitzvah is that? Whose mitzvah is it? Who fulfills the mitzvah? The king, by being the king? The people who appoint the king? So and how do we have that mitzvah at all today? What's the message of that? Even though we don't have all the mitzvahs today, but there has to be some type of application of the mitzvah today for each and every one of us. So let's see what he says. He says, "L'zeh yikore melech." To this we call a king. Kishahadam misromein b'malos nafshal svivaso. When a person is able to elevate his virtuous soul over his surroundings. V'yoso takif b'dalto omitz b'sichon. A person is strong in his knowledge, very strong in his seichel, meaning very committed to what he understands is right. He shouldn't be led by what's around him. That he shouldn't move from every wind that blows from every side. A real king knows what's right. He's stubbornly determined to follow the course that is correct. This is a very hard work for a person. Why? Because the nature of a person is to be influenced by his surroundings. To that which everybody agrees to is an accepted norm. Tichana nafsho. Most people, they sublimate themselves to what is the accepted norm. Not even people who are small-minded. Anshe Amon, the masses, we're not talking about them only. Shein lem shum yuz matzis. They don't have any of their own backbone. We're not talking about that. It's hard for everybody. Ela afilu hamaskilim ba'am v'anshe adas. Even the very bright people, the great thinkers. It's very hard to free themselves from the false knowledge and wealth and shan that rules over the world. It's hard to buck the trend. To stand up, which stands up and builds world views on fundamentals that are accepted to the world. The world has certain accepted norms. Today, the world has one of the most corrupted accepted norms in reality. And because of that, the world today believes that nobody is wrong. Just nobody's wrong. Pluralism, liberalism, nobody's wrong. Everyone has their opinion. There's very few wrong things left in the world. And even that, murder, maybe, although most murderers get off. And people know that, so it can't be that wrong. Right? So there's no morality. There's no morality. So it's very hard. It's hard for a person himself to find within himself to find what is his own proper outlook on life and philosophy of life. That's not enslaved by the environment around him. How many people can we really say they believe what they believe in because it's what they believe in, not what they're copying from everybody around them? Right? That's very hard. Shemati b'shem hagon atzadik b'shmol salanter zatzal. He heard from Yisrael Salanter. Shaberis mamar zal alikus of the Mashiach. He explains one of the statements of the rabbis that in the times before the Mashiach, one of the signs is Pnei Hador ke Pnei HaKelev. The face of the generation is like the face of a dog. What does that mean? He explains, Kesheroin agola nosas, when the dog sees a wagon going, Bekelev ratzluf, and then the dog runs in front of it, Yef Sodas, Miyamanig, Miyamunak. We don't know who is leading and who is following. It looks like the dog is leading. Because the dog's running in front and the wagon's behind. But when you get to a crossroads, if you carefully look, you'll see the dog stops. He turns to see which direction the wagon is going. Aha! And then he goes again in the direction. From that we can see really the dog isn't leading, he's running in the direction that he planned, he anticipates the wagon's going to go. That's how it's going to be before the Mashiach comes. Pnei Ador, the face of the generation, i.e., Manhigei Ha'amot, the leaders of the countries. They won't lead the nation according to their intelligence, according to their logic. He's going to always turn around to see what direction are the people going. To lead them that way that they want to be led. As long as a person is enclosed in physicality, and he has any interaction with society, he said he can't free himself at all from this. So that is, this was in honor of yesterday's elections. Right? Because the elected people, they don't believe in anything. They just believe in one thing: I want to be the leader. That's the only thing they believe in. That's all. It's not an idea of social justice and change. They just believe in one thing. It's a good job. It's got covered. You get paid well. You don't really have to do anything at the end of the day. And so many opportunities to steal is unbelievable. And power and all these things. That's what they want. That's what they really want. So how do they get it? Well, let's just find out what the people want. Try to get the right pulse. What do most people want? And I will have that position of what most people want, so they'll vote for me. And that's what a democracy is all about, which is the worst, not the worst, but not a very good form of government. Because there's a big problem with democracy. Everybody is still, the leader represents the selfish needs of the people. And everyone's selfish needs are not possible to be taken care of. So this king now, so if you have a lot of people thinking the same way, okay. But the truth of the matter is, now that you have your pluralism and liberalism, everybody's got their own opinions. So then there's not very many people share the same values. So who can be a leader over such a country? So now we have, 4 people running for mayor in Vaughan? I wonder what the winner got, how many percentages he wound up getting at the end of the day. I don't know. 30%? That makes it enough for you to represent the whole Vaughan?
Probably the 30% that voted.
Because why do so few people vote? Because they know there's nothing to vote for. Something to vote for. Are you going to see taxes reduced? Are you going to see any real change happening? No. When they have town hall meetings and everyone says, we don't want this thing to happen, they do it anyway. They do it anyway because, but the people don't want it. Doesn't matter. So, again, this is the problem. This is the problem with all elected officials. Very few really, and if anybody really says something that's right and sticks with it, then people vote him out the next election because they never thought he meant what he said. Right? It was Mike Harris's famous line that he really was going to trim the budget. He was going to, get things proper. And problem is, people would have to pay a price for it. So at the end of the day, it sounded good, but when he did it, then they didn't want him anymore, right? You see what's going on with Obama down south. I mean, from what someone was telling me yesterday, the elections in the states coming in another 2 weeks. They said the Democrats are going to get creamed now. But what happened 2 years ago? The Republicans got creamed. What is it? Everybody. You see how stupid the people are. In 2 years, their opinion guy could change so much. The guy never said anything to begin with, right? But all he wasn't the old guard. What was so bad about the old guard? It wasn't that bad. And that's what you get. So that's all what it is. So everyone's trying to figure out, what do people want now? So that's not leadership. Right? Let's continue inside. Achima Adam. After the underlines there, the one line there that's not underlined. But if the person can elevate himself in a great way above society, he's strong in his mind, which is what? Da'as Torah, the understanding of Torah. The Torah says this is what you do. To the degree that he can go beyond in his strong mind, in his view, beyond what the masses are looking at. To that degree he rules over the people. He can influence and rule them. And the people around him, they give him honor. But but he also has to be pleasantly dealing with the people. In other words, the king says, this is the Torah's approach. And instead of being heavy-handed with it, he says it very gently. He says, I know, I understand. I understand how much you guys love idols. I understand how much it gives you comfort. And, I've sometimes have felt that way. But, I'm really sorry. Hashem says you can't do it. If Hashem says you can't do it, and my job is to enforce it, I have to enforce it. But we don't want it. I know, I understand the trauma that's involved. I understand the poverty we're in. And you figure if you go to an idol, they'll help you out. I understand. But Hashem still taught us not to, and we have to trust Him. So you say it benachas, but you don't give in. That's the balance. If you come with the word of Hashem, but you're strong, and you don't appear to be sympathetic, then what will happen is the masses will kill you. The masses will kill you. They will rebel. So it's very difficult to be the king. The king has to stay strong in his values, yet be sympathetic to the people, but not give in on the values. That's very hard. You need that balance. Kilulo zos, if you don't have that sympathy, Yachi says chaver, you're going to get the society upset. They'll have chutzpah against that leadership. Hakasha, that's hard. If it's a heavy-handed rulership, if it's a tyrannical rulership, even though he has great spiritual levels that deserve to be honored, will only arouse anger amongst the masses who don't like to hear it. But if his temperament will lead him in a way that it pushes away his wanting for honor, then everyone will recognize his greatness, they'll subjugate themselves before him, and they will put the crown on him. So that's the difficult challenge of being the king. To firmly stay with your values, which are Torah values, to enforce those Torah values, and yet deal in a pleasant way with people so that they will be able to stomach his leadership and be able to take it. Now let's look at the next page. Good. So now he says a very important thing. He says, Ulam, however, in order to reach a level for you to be a king over your surroundings, there's a prerequisite, and this can apply to each and every one of us. First, have to be king over yourself. On his powers, and to rule over his spirit. This is really the greatest monarchy and the most broad-based monarchy. Why? Let's imagine the most powerful king who rules the whole world with an iron fist, like a Sancherev, people like that who mamish rule the whole world, right? He still doesn't have that many servants and people who bend to what he wants, like a person controls over his own self. Why? Because you yourself, each human being has tens upon tens of thousands of feelings that are inside his heart through the day. Hadorshim tafkidim v'mishogim v'losam, that seek their mission and are yearning to act. Kokach l'vinyano, each strength, each power according to its aspect. Kol regesh l'vitochna, every feeling according to its content. In other words, you have so many impulses. Somebody walks in the room, you want to yell at him. Someone walks in the room, must do a chesed. So many things you want to do. Good things, bad things. Who's ruling over all your impulses? Who's supposed to be the king? You. Right? You get up in the morning. The alarm clock gets up at 5:15. I don't want to get up. That's impulse number one. The king says, you're getting up and get out of bed now. Right? And now you're the king. You're the king. So I see we have 4 kings today. 5 kings today. Those are the kings. Right? And your boss at work threatens you if you don't stay for a Friday night meeting, you'll be fired. So you're the king. You got to say, sorry, I can't make it. And then on the other hand, when you see that you have certain talents and you're a little bit afraid to use those talents, the king says, I think you should try to do this. And throughout the day, everyone you meet, how are you going to react to them? You got to be the king. And that's a big kingdom. Many subjects. Every emotion and impulse is a subject in the kingdom. So why don't you work on that first? Because anyone who knows how to sustain all those forces, to rule over them and to lead them, anyway, according to his recognition, to the root of it, knows how to use all those forces within himself for a good goal, according to his intellect, hazach, which is clear, he doesn't allow them to control him. Right? The HR wants you to stay in bed, wants you to look at things you shouldn't look at, wants you to overeat. No, I'm not going to let you control me. At the end of the day, you're the king. You either agree to what the masses want or you don't agree. Either you lead them or they lead you. Right? You want every force to lead you every moment. To how it awakens. Then you're given into their hands. You jump in with them without any leader, and you strengthen them. See, that's what your leaders today are doing. All the culprits of the world, all the people who have deviant behaviors, they force the leaders to legalize them. Force them. Legalize them. The leaders have no backbone of their own to say it's wrong. And now what do you have? The leaders now believe that way. You have to say, no, this is wrong. You can't do this. Finished. Goodbye. But he doesn't do that. But he controls all the forces. So you're showing, and he's crowned with a crown of fear of heaven. And then he brings a couple of psukim to bring that down. That's what he says. The beginning of wisdom. Right, well, look at the pasuk before in Yerushalmi. The Chachma brings a crown to the head. Right? And what's Reishis Chachma? The beginning of Chachma is Yiras Hashem. So that's the king, the highest king. And that's what our rabbis say, to tie it into last week's Parsha. Avram the Gematria Reish Mem Gimel. Avram, the Gematria of Avram is 243. Avraham, the added Hey, is 248. So what does that mean? First he was a king. Hashem made him a king. Avram a king over 243 limbs. Ubsov, it's more in the door. Then he made him king over 248 limbs. He increased the kingdom. The Gemara itself is telling you that it's a great kingdom to rule over all these impulses and forces. Avram, because of his great righteousness and greatness, was able to reach this level of being a king over 248 body parts. And here's what the rabbi said: the Rabbanan Ikru Malachim, the rabbis are called kings, meaning the scholars are called kings. Dichsiv, because it says, Bi Malachim Yamluchu. Within me, the kings, they rule. Means in me, in my Torah. Because these are the true warriors who control their Yetzers. Hema Malachim Hamitim. Those are the truest kings. So that's what Hashem said. The Jews could be a Mamlechas Kohanim, a kingdom of priests. Every Jew is supposed to be a king. A king over your own self. No, we don't call a king who sits on a throne, but he is like an indentured servant to every force and feeling that comes into the world that arouses him. When we talk, and therefore he has to be a servant to all his impulses? No. But rather, if he rules over himself, then he's able also to rule over the entire realm. Very important yisod. And this is what real malchus is. Real malchus is ruling over yourself. It's a big enough kingdom. If you can rule over yourself, then you can start ruling over others. The problem is today, all the leaders, they don't rule over themselves at all. And they never intend on ruling over themselves. They don't intend on ruling over others either. They just do what they want. Right? And do it, but you try to get your own covenant at the same time. So now let's go a little further. After the three dots, he says, "Kfar hivanu kama pamim l'das ki kol inyanim sebalomeinu po shrashahu b'sharish habriya." Whatever we find in our world, he said many times, it's rooted in a higher realm. It's rooted in God's realm, in the roots of creation. It evolves from the highest world, Hashem's world, all the way till it comes down into our world. All the mystical stuff we've been talking about. So the same thing, if there's an idea of kingship in this world, that means there's a kingship starting from the roots of creation. The idea of monarchy is also in the roots of creation. And it's meant to finally evolve into this world in a physical way with the real Jewish king who rules when Mashiach will come. That's going to be the ultimate rulership in this world that will reflect and disseminate, come from the ultimate seeds of rulership that are parts of what creation is all about. Hashem's 10th sphere of Malchus is meant to reflect itself down here in the Malchus of the kingdom of David. And we can recognize a little of this type of kingship in individuals who are able to control and discipline themselves as well. But sometimes in very special times, when it comes down into this world, unfortunately, when it meets up with the smallness of people, it turns upside down here. Next column, we see for ourselves. The next Hebrew word is a hard one to get. Caricatura, a caricature. We see a caricature, a human awesome caricature. It's the opposite of what it came from. It's only slavery and the lowest of low. In other words, you could take the holy attribute of Melucha, just like any attribute, Chesed. You could take Chesed and turn it on its head and use it Chesed for yourself and not for others. So just like Malchus can be brought on this world and done in a corrupt way. And that's what Shlomo Melech said in Mishlei. Tachas sholosh rigzar. There's three things that the world trembles from, and one is Tachas eved kimloch. When a servant rules. When a servant rules, it's the worst thing. What does that mean? We normally think, what does it mean? Tachas eved kimloch. Nemer al mi shoya eved v'nasalach. We said the worst thing is if a person was a servant, and now somebody becomes the king, that's the worst thing. That's what we think is Pasuk Pshat in the Pasuk. The real Pshat in when a servant rules is this. Zel mihu melech. Someone who's a king, a real king, was always a king. But in his innards, Eved, who's really a slave. We're not talking about what I said yesterday about being the first servant to Hashem. Servant to Hashem is good. But we're not talking about a servant to Hashem, but a servant to what? Your Yetzer Hara. Eved hu ba'avdus yachzik b'malchusa. And through his servitude, he clings to his monarchy to continue to be a slave to his passions and desires. Which makes him even more of a slave. Right? That's the problem. Because now what is the king using the monarchy for? Just to enrich himself. Right? You have the corrupt kings. That's what it's been, the whole corruption of kings. Because the king wants, right? Kavod, taiva, gaiva, all those things. So he lets the monarchy be the means for him to get that. So then he's just using the whole world to make himself a slave for himself. That's what the rabbi is saying over here. And he ends, I don't have it here, he says, in the yeshiva of Telz, that's what they wanted every bacher to be. They wanted every bacher to be a king, right? Not to be swayed by people. And he said there were certain bacher who would, the yeshiva was meant to produce leaders, Jewish leaders, who would be leaders, who wouldn't be swayed by public opinion, but at least, they should be kings over themselves. That's what you have to go to yeshiva for many years. In a university, you will never learn to be a king over yourself. It's not in the curriculum. That's the biggest problem. And unfortunately, through high school, in Jewish high school, the kid's not old enough, mature enough to learn how to be a leader over himself. That's something that takes years and years of studying. And no university can teach that to you, because all the professors are slaves to themselves. They don't even understand. You take political science, it does nothing. Right? That's what you need to go to yeshiva for, to become a king. If you're a king, you won't be swayed by public opinion. You firmly believe in the Ratzon Hashem. That is a real king. All right, next week we'll come to other interpretations of what the problems of a Jewish king and the potential benefits.